Hubei Wuhan 市卫健委
The city of Wuhan, which has been cut off.
chinesischen Millionenstadt Wuhan.
This is in Wuhan, the city where the virus is.
COVID-19 في مدينة ووهان
Wuhan.
China.
Wuhan, a city in central China whose name spread faster than the virus itself. It became ground zero of a crisis that brought the world to a halt. Like many, when I think of Wuhan, images come to my mind. Images of empty streets, of workers in protective suits, of hospitals pulled out of thin air. But what does Wuhan look like today, more than 5 years after the unthinkable began here? We went to find out, and what we saw was nothing like what we imagined.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wuhan Tianhe International Airport.
We land at Wuhan Tianhe International Airport, a place that once stood still, now back in motion. It handles over 30 million passengers a year and offers the first glimpse into a city that was once sealed off from the rest of the world. Today, the curfews are long gone, and we will be able to see whether Wuhan still deserves its bad reputation in 2025. It takes about 45 minutes by cab from the airport to the center of the sprawling metropolis, which in China is known as the City of Rivers. Looking out of the window, the landscapes gradually change from wide open plains to huge residential towers. Lush plants flourish throughout, and the air flowing through the open window is notably warm and humid. I have imagined Wuhan in so many ways, but now that we are here, it somehow feels completely different. Today, Wuhan is vibrant and bustling, not just on the big boulevards or shiny shopping streets, also in the narrow alleys where life squeezes between scooters, food stalls, and hanging laundry. 11 million people wake up, go to work, scroll their phones, and get annoyed by the traffic just like everywhere else. Things are impressive, but somehow also a little surreal. I don't discover anything remotely reminiscent of what happened here just a few years ago. It's as if it has been erased from history. But time runs differently in China. The past is the past. Obviously, Wuhan is no longer a ghost town, and it feels like any other fast-growing Asian megacity. It's busy, structured in its own way, and constantly moving. If you're looking for a change of pace without leaving the city, the Yuan Garden is a good place to start. Just next to it stands the Yellow Crane Tower, a replica of a legendary but destroyed temple that once stood guard in Wuhan. This site somehow feels both incredibly touristy and quite local at the same time. Despite the school groups, families and tour guides with megaphones, we seem to be the only foreign visitors in sight. The large plaque that decorates the tower bears a Chinese inscription that translates to "Look into the southern sky as far as the eye can see," a statement that is no exaggeration. Amidst the dense jungle of buildings, we spot a bunch of stalls that look like some kind of market or a street food area. We decide to check it out, but after 2 sleepless nights, our sense of direction is off and the alleys twist deeper with every turn. But by some sort of miracle, we don't get lost and arrive in the maze of the market street. The food options are plenty. Not everything looks inviting, but what we try is simple, fresh, and delicious. Now, a big issue in China is paying. You would think it could be easy, just use cash or card, but of course it's not that simple. Especially smaller places often only accept mobile payment, which can be tricky without a mainland Chinese bank account. Sometimes it works, sometimes it randomly fails, sometimes it takes over a minute to process. It always feels a bit like a lottery. We never fully figure it out, but in the end we always manage to pay somehow. Sometimes through detours, sometimes with help from locals, but somehow it worked in the end. I even got my first ever foot massage, but I'm way too ticklish, so never again. While most people here don't seem to speak English, we are able to communicate somewhat with our hands and translation apps. What really amazes me is how patient, helpful and generally open people are toward us. Often, especially young people come up to us, want to practice their English, shake my hand and are very curious about where I'm from and happy that we found our way to Wuhan. It's a trip that has not only changed my image of Wuhan, but also of China in general. Of course, while I respect China and love traveling there, I don't want to sound like a propaganda machine, so let's address the elephant in the room. According to most researchers, Wuhan is the place of origin of the COVID-19 pandemic. And while the now closed wet market was often considered ground zero, many intelligence agencies now support the lab theory, namely that the virus escaped from a research institute. And I have to admit, it's rather weird that the pandemic has broken out in Wuhan of all places. The city is not only one of the top 10 places with the highest scientific output in the world, but it is also home of the Wuhan Institute of Virology. This institute is the global leader in coronavirus research and in gain-of-function research, in which coronaviruses are deliberately made more dangerous in order to better understand them. Just by chance, a virus that doesn't even occur naturally in the region breaks out in this very city. I'm not a conspiracy theorist and I believe in facts, but those are certainly rather curious coincidences. What's even more curious is that just 2 years before the pandemic, US diplomats raised the alarm about the safety management of the coronavirus at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. After the visits, the officials were so concerned by the conditions they observed on site that the report triggered reactions at the diplomatic level. But especially the fact that after the pandemic, China still does everything in its power to prevent the Wuhan Institute of Virology from being independently investigated, I admit, doesn't exactly shed the best light on the matter. When we told friends and family that we'd have a stopover in Wuhan, most of them were surprised and asked, why would you go there? I'm still not a fan of the lab, but the city itself caught me off guard. It's clean, organized and full of small contradictions. The official slogan says Wuhan different every day, and maybe that's true. But the real question is, what do you see when you stop looking at Wuhan as a headline? Our next stop is the Jianghan Pedestrian Street, a wide shopping avenue filled with global brands, restaurants and evening entertainment. While some in the West might still picture Wuhan as a chaotic or unsafe place, what we experience here couldn't be further from that. I like the contrast between old and new, between narrow alleys and glass towers, between temples and neon lights. There's a lot I still don't understand about China, but it keeps pulling me in. We only planned to stay in Wuhan for the day, but thanks to China Eastern Airlines, we ended up spending the night too. Click here to watch the ridiculous disaster unfold in my China Eastern video. Thank you for watching and see you soon.